and I'm going to use this mic, so I'm not going to worry about this one. Microphones seem to be okay today, but other things not so much. Okay. So if you asked, let me get my copy here so I'm all set. All right, so welcome to the 2023 annual congregational meeting. Would you go to the next slide, please? Just a reminder that only those who are church members may vote. There's just one vote today. And as we've said, the meeting is being live streamed. It's not an interactive meeting, so we're glad people can watch the meeting and participate in that way, but they are not able to be asking questions or interact. I am asking our clerk of session, Mike Stone, do we have a quorum? We do. Thank you. I call to order this meeting of the congregation. This is our agenda. So we'll leave that slide up for now. Those are the things that have been presented, and those are the things we will do today. Let us join our hearts in prayer. Holy One, you want our individual lives and this church to flourish. Give us ears to hear and hearts to be open as we seek your guidance. As we reflect on the past year, may we dream your dreams and together be a church who seeks to follow the ways of Jesus and welcomes all people. Amen. I'd like to mention a few highlights from the annual report and a few hopes that I have for the coming year. I am grateful that we are a congregation that continues to find ways to deepen our experience of the presence of God, of the holy, and to engage our hearts and minds. So through the establishment of One World, One Spirit, and the rich programming of having John Philip Newell and other speakers, and our adult education committee that continues to invite resources and people to help us learn and understand more about what it means to be people of faith in the world. The Green Team is planning some special offerings this coming year and also was last year. So I'm just grateful for this congregation of learners and people who want to know and understand more, both in our head and our heart and our whole being. I want to thank all of those who have served on the session in this past year and the Board of Deacons. That's part of the strength of our church, of people who serve both as leaders and on various committees and task forces. Thank you for another year of great leadership. One thing I am thinking about and have talked to some about is this year, going into 2023, of beginning to design a new logo for our church and to write a new mission statement that reflects who we are as a congregation now. The last one was over a decade ago, and I think it's time to bring some new words and new images. On the cover of the annual report, I used a few things we've used over this past year: a Celtic knot, some new wording. It's not in stone, but these are things that as we've tried to articulate who we are in some of our publicity and when a guest comes to the church, who are we? What do we want to say about who we are? So I hope you'll be thinking and be creative and help shape that, both the wording and the image, about what might we use to go forward. The nominating committee will soon be at work. I'll say more at the end of the meeting, but we've elected those who will be members at large. The session and the deacons are getting ready to elect their representatives. So think about, if you get a call, what it might mean for you to serve. Or if you're thinking, well, I want to know more, maybe I should join one of the committees or a task force or something, or talk to me or others in leadership. So I hope you'll be open to the ways that the Spirit is moving and how we share in our leadership and caring. It certainly takes a lot to maintain this building and our property, and I want to give a special thanks to our facilities committee, chaired by Bill Schultz, with Ralph Lunan and John Robinson and Martin Stevenson, and it takes a lot, day in, day out. Bulbs go out, parking lots start to crumble when we didn't expect it, and there are bigger projects. Bill Salem wrote that, but just be grateful and maybe offer to help how we keep this building going. And it really is 7 days a week. People are here during the day and the evening. We are a gathering place, and it takes work to keep all the lights on and the building as it should be. I'm just grateful that we are looking for ways to reach out to young people, particularly people like Dylan, who's helping us do the sound, and Thayer, who's our pianist, and other young guest musicians. So I'm still working and talking with people who work particularly with young adults, teenagers, how we might have them here for different events. And I know the church has a history of a great youth group. I'm not sure what form that would ever take, but I would want young people to feel like this is a place they're welcome and valued. So we'll keep thinking about that, and how we are a center for the arts in different ways. Anne often gets calls for having concerts here, or rehearsals, or tryouts and auditions. So this is a place that's very alive with the arts and music. We've had people join the church in this last year, and as people become active friends or want to become members, to just be mindful of who you might invite. And I know quite a few of you have invited friends or neighbors or coworkers. So to invite them to an event, and then they might come to other things. Just be mindful of who might be open to and long for a community of faith, a church family, a place to ask new questions and deepen that connection and love. Those are the things I wanted to highlight today. Do you have any questions for me that you'd like to raise? We're going to keep an eye on the clock, but Angela can bring the microphone around if there's anything people wanted to lift up or ask. Seeing none, I will turn the microphone over to Mike Stone for the clerk's report. And again, how great to have you here, Mike, in person.
Okay, part of this report that I'm expected to give it has to do with numbers, and I'll get to that in a second. But as I was looking at the annual report, and I encourage you all to do the same, Susan Isler had something very important to say in the membership report, that the statistical number of church members, and I would say visitors, participants in worship, does not reflect the vitality and strength of our church family. What reflects that is our connections. And so I do invite you to look carefully at the annual report. A lot of people put a lot of work into reporting on what they had been doing, their activities during the year. And it's useful to look at those, and useful then to look at those connections, look at all the ways we connect with each other, we connect with our local community, we connect with the world, we connect with the planet. And that's where the strength and vitality comes from. The numbers, on the other hand, are worth at least helping us to kind of keep track of what we're doing, where we're attracting people, where it gives us ideas about what else we might be doing. Looking at the attendance, this is worship attendance, this year increased by about 10%. And interestingly, it's the average attendance, both for all of our forms of worship, 8:30, 10 o'clock, soul song, and so on, average was about the same, but we went back finally in what we hope is now the ongoing post-COVID world. So we went from 15 8:30 services last year to 37, or the year before, this year to 37 in 2022, from 15 went to 15 soul song services, and then including then, for instance, Ash Wednesday, and so the average, we attract about the same number of people, but we're doing it in more different ways. Other thing to look at is in attendance, especially 10 o'clock's attendance, it's about, somewhat surprisingly to me, about the same number of people worship with us in person as worship online. And we find out that online often surprises and continues throughout the year. People all through the year are looking at those YouTube services, and for that we are grateful to Aaron and Susan and everyone else who works to make that happen and works to overcome the problems with that, because it is really an important part of our outreach. Cynthia reminded us this morning about the connection between blessing and mourning. And this year we mourned, and our friends mourned, the loss of 3 members of our congregation, Dick Catman, Faye Blatt, and Wayne White. I invite you to take a moment now to silence, to reflect on them and reflect on our gratitude to them, for them, and their lives. Thank you.
And now I invite Bill Schultz to come up for the Facilities Committee.
This lectern is pinned together in case you, we'll have to work on that as a danger. Okay, I'll try to be really brief. What you're going to hear today mostly is going to be about the current 2023 and 2022 business, annual business, and of course, annual is important because that's the year we're in, and we have to make our way through this year and do it in a way we are happy with. But we'd like to take a moment, though, to remind you that the church has longer term needs as well. These are mostly related to major facilities projects, as you might expect. In 2023, we will start making contributions of $10,000 from the annual operating budget, which is something decades ago we used to do, but we're just going to start that up again as a way to get started on better coverage for long-term projects. But that will not cover all long-term needs for sure, and the rest must come from the members of this church and friends who have interest in seeing the longevity of this facility. As somebody that was standing here one year in a stewardship moment observed, we don't want this to be the fifth and Mission 7-Eleven 25 years from now. So we have to think out there and keep in mind what's coming down the road. Over the last 3 to 4 years, we have committed about $70,000, which is a significant sum, to about 6 large projects. Some are not completed yet, like the front doors, but they're coming along. However, there are still 2 major projects that are completely unfunded at this point. One is the accessibility ramp, which has been discussed in many small and large forums here, and lots of ideas have been put out, but we have to pull those together and turn it into something that's reality. So that's a major expenditure. We also have a not so much fun project, which is to have the roof on canoles. It's a foam roof, and we have to have it resprayed every now and then. So that's coming up in a couple of years. Together, those 2 projects actually could require contributions or funding, I'll say, in the neighborhood of $100,000. And meanwhile, the Green Team is also exploring possible new projects to make our building more eco-friendly. We don't have time to discuss all these projects, or these 2 big projects today, but there's no secrets, and you're welcome to talk to me anytime. And if you want to talk about stewardship or estate planning or other aspects of finances, Susan Bryant or Ralph Purdy or Cynthia will also be happy to talk about that. But we want to keep the conversation going. So thank you very much for your consideration, and go 49ers.
Our next matter on the agenda is Susan Bryant, who is the chair of our Finance Committee, is going to walk us through the numbers for this past year and the coming year.
Good morning. As Cynthia says, I'm here to give an overview of the budget report, which includes the 2022 actual income and expenses compared to budget, and the 2023 budget, which is on the screen. The income portion is on the screen over there. And then after that, I'll also be presenting the pastor's terms of call. So just a reminder of how this works in the Presbyterian Church. The budget is approved by the session and then reviewed with the congregation, and the pastor terms of call are voted on and approved by the congregation. So that'll be the vote we'll have a little later. Okay, it's on page 9 of the annual report, the hard copy that we just passed out. Starting with the income, well, overall, the income and expense results are very good news this year, with income coming in well above budget and expenses in line with budget. Contribution income, which is the top line, includes both pledged and non-pledged donations. And really, thank you all I've been helping with stewardship as well. Thank you all very much for your generosity. It's really, really wonderful. In 2022, the contributions came in a little higher than budget, and the 2023 budget is about $6,000 higher than the 2022 budget. And at this point, it reflects all the pledges we've received to date. So it's, we put it in exactly as what we've received, but then there's non-pledged as well as people come. So also late in 2022, we received some additional donations of $20,000 that the session chose to transfer to the building fund to help pay for the door replacement project. So these were in addition to what's reported here because we decided to restrict them. So it's even better news than the news that you see there. So, so hopefully the 49ers will have the same luck. So rental income for 2022 is also much improved from budget and from prior years now that the old firehouse school is up and running and that we've returned to more normal rental activity as the pandemic has receded. We expect rental income to increase a bit further in 2023. And then in addition to the old firehouse school, as Cynthia mentioned, the church also rents to various nonprofits on both a long-term and short-term basis. So this building is hopping night and day, 7 days a week. So the 5% quasi-endowment transfers and investment income help fund current operations. This includes transfers from the Crawl Fund, the Church Endowment Fund, and the 1987 Fund. And the 5% is 5% of the last 4 quarters' balances. So that's when we talk about the 5% rule. It's a stable rule that you pull out anticipated investment income. The 2023 budget is a bit lower for these funds due to the drop in the investment balances with market losses. And then the final line, the $10,000. In 2022, we needed to transfer $10,000 to budgeted operations to cover a cash shortfall in the middle of the year. We get a lot of donations in the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, and then some people pay throughout the year, but we just in the summer sometimes we run a little short. And it's also, we've been running at a deficit for a while. We do these transfers every now and then, but the last time was 2018, so it's not every year. It's just occasionally you run a little short. So it's like pulling from your savings account, if you think of that. So, moving on to expenses. The personnel expenses are the largest budgeted expense, followed by facilities. The budget reflects the pastor's terms of call that we will be voting on shortly. And then as Bill talked about, it includes a new line, budget fund accrual. And this, again, provides partial funding for the facilities projects described by Bill. And then, but there'll be the need for further funding beyond that. Other than facilities, most budgets are stable with 2022, and most of the 2022 expenses were in line with the budget. So the 2022 budgeted operations resulted in a positive $14,000 in income. So much better than the budget due to higher than expected income and stable expenses. 2023 budgeted operations is anticipated to have a deficit, primarily due to this $10,000 building fund accrual. So without that accrual, which we all agree we need, we were very, very close to a balanced budget. So again, it sort of made you want to just round up on your each pledge. So, but we need to give to facilities too. So non-budget operations, so going to the next slide, there's a category called non-budgeted operations. So this includes market losses and gains on our investments, which are really the endowments and quasi-endowments, and then special programs and donation drive expenses and distributions net of contributions. So on the endowments and quasi-endowments, this reflects the unrealized loss on investments during 2022. So unrealized means we haven't really experienced this loss. It's when you look at how the balance goes up and down. You have to have that run through your financial statements in order to balance. The results, while not good, are in line with the rest of the market. So the endowments are primarily or almost all invested in the Vanguard Balanced Index Fund, which is a well-diversified stock and bond combination. It's about 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And despite the 2023 loss and the 5% annual withdrawals, I looked back to 2018, and the funds like the crawl in the 1987, where we don't have donations, have actually grown a bit compared to the last 5 years. So things went way up, and then they went down a bit, but they're about 8% up on the balances, including those withdrawals and losses. Expenses for programs net of contributions include contributions and expenses for special programs and donation drives. In some cases, contributions come in one year and expenses are in another. In addition to congregational support, some of these programs are also supported by special restricted funds and outside donations, including the Boyce Endowment, the Grant Pritchard Fund, the Jan Reynolds Fund, and Marin County. This includes support for the Deacons, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, including the Ukraine donations, an additional live stream workstation, so there are 2 back there, and we also move them from here to back there. Youth on the Move and Youth Service Team, new Advent decorations and liturgical arts, organ tuning, so those donations came in a few years ago, but the expense came through this year, and we love the organ today. Pedal for Protein, the mission trip, and then the building fund projects we did this year, which were some electrical projects and the roof patching, which I think came through the rain okay. So any questions on the financial side? And again, as Bill said, you're free to call me, email me. I know this is a lot to cover in a short time. And then pastor terms of call would be next. And bye, Cynthia. We'll come get you shortly, we hope. Okay, so these are the pastor terms of call, and what page is it in the annual report? I assume it's the page, or is there a page? Or just the, okay, so they're on the screen. So the salary and housing allowance increase is in line with the Presbytery's recommended cost of living increase. So salary and housing allowance is $116, and then we have what it was in 2022 was $109,000. And Cynthia gives us the breakdown between salary and housing. So that's a normal pastor thing, and she tells us what percentages. The insurance and pension are set percentages of the salary, so the percentages are set by the presbytery. The other change this year is we changed her vacation to 5 weeks. It used to be 1 month, so 5 weeks is more clear, particularly if you're not taking your vacation all at once, and it's rounded up by a few days. You know, I think the longest month is 30 months, so it would now be 5 weeks. And again, that was recommended by the presbytery. So any questions or discussion on this? It would be in addition, yes.
So it could be 7 weeks away from here.
Away from here, yes.
That's okay.
And I think, I'm not on personnel, but I believe the 2 weeks is what we've had before. There's no change on that. So the only change is changing from 1 month to 5 weeks.
Is this salary the same as last year?
No, it was increased along with the cost of living. So the presbytery gave us a recommend. So the salary previous, or for 2022 was 109. So the second to the bottom line.
Sorry? Yes.
109, and then we're going up to 116.
I'm glad to see that with the
Yeah.
cost of living.
Yeah. Okay, so then I guess I lead the vote, I assume. I guess those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And what's the in between? I don't know. Any abstentions? And could someone go get Cynthia? I think that's it. Thank you.
thank you. I feel very grateful to serve you as your pastor, and just thank you. All right, the last item on our agenda is to remind you that at our congregational meeting in April, we elected the following people to serve on the nominating committee, and they will now begin their work. If you're here, please stand when I read your name. Linda Adams, Penn Mullen, Jim Redpath, Marge Robinson. Thank you, Linda and Jim, for being here today and for serving. You may sit down. Marge, I did get word, had not been feeling well, so she stayed home today, and we're grateful for the four of them. So at the deacons meeting tomorrow, the deacons will elect a representative, and at the February session meeting, the session will elect two representatives, and they will begin their work, and their names will be in the e-news. So be thinking about your calling, and you may be invited to serve. That is all that is on our agenda. Do I hear a call? Do I have a motion to adjourn? And a second? Yes. Could you stand up? Thank you, Leslie. Special thanks to Mike Stone, who did all the editing, and Nicole and I worked together along with Angela and Ann, and it is a big project every year, and to have the graphic artist 16 hours ahead of us in Singapore, and when I was awake, she was asleep, but we did it. So we're grateful for the opportunity to share the good news of what is happening. So as Leslie said, we have printed copies in the PDF, so please take time to read it. I heard a motion to adjourn and a second. Let us close with prayer. God of our coming and going, Holy One of our past, our present, and our future, we have met, we have celebrated, we have remembered. We have shared some hopes and dreamed some new dreams. As we go out, remind us that we do not go alone. As we go out, remind us that we can go with hope. As we go out, may we be instruments of your love and light and peace each day. Amen. Thank you. There are goodies in the narthex, and enjoy your day.